All right, welcome, guys. We are live. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are joined with Sherri Divband and Laura Van Tyne and myself, Abby Lynn. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know that we're simulcasting on both Intuitive Shift and the Karmic Path. So welcome both of those audiences in this evening. We are really excited to speak a little more in depth of Awaken and Align, and why we chose to call that the next phase, why we chose to come in and co-host this immersive retreat down in Florida. And it came through so strongly. And I text these ladies, it's time. It's time. It's time to find that voice. It's time, especially that divine feminine. It was just coming through so strongly that day. I was out working in my yard. And it's time. And why is it time? Because of these shifts that we're going through with these energies. We've been talking, all three of us. I know we've all been going on podcasts for the past 2 weeks. These solar flares are just slamming us. The Schumann resonance is going insane. We are seeing massive shifts too. There's no ships and shifts within global politics, global economies. We're seeing the ships and the drones and the lights and the fogs, and now people are trying to bring in even more into this narrative. And the human consciousness, the global consciousness, is being bombarded with all of this information. And where do we go with this? And the main place is to go within, because that's what's awakening.
And how do we do that, right?
How do we do that, right? You know, our guides come in and say, it's time to find your voice. It's time to find that strong feminine voice. How do we do that? So the three of us are coming in and pulling in and offering all of the modalities that we have spent years and years and decades and lifetimes gathering and pulling in, because a lot of this stuff, please chime in, ladies, when we just nudge into a tool, into a modality, boom, soul memory kicks in. And I know how to do this. I've done this in 3 lifetimes. I've done this for thousands of years. But all it takes is to get in that environment, is to get in that energy where you are able to practice it again. You're able to be a witness, to hear and feel a modality that your soul has done before. And that's really what we're doing. We're holding space for everyone who comes for 3 full days. You guys get all 3 of us for 3 full
days, because we're trying to figure out where to cut back.
Yeah.
Like we could do this for a full week to 10 days. And, the whole concept, like you were talking about, Abby Lynn, is that how do you grow your spiritual toolbox? And what does that look like? And why do we need different spiritual tools and different aids? Why, what is status quo may not work in the future. So this is a part of our soul evolution, our soul development, that the 3 of us are so excited to share these. And I know, Sherri, you were saying like, okay, I got like 50 things I want to teach, and they're all very valuable, right? And I'm the same way, and Abby, you're the same way. And so we're narrowing this down, and we're figuring out how we fit in, and then we've got a really good plan moving forward, and we're super excited about it.
Yeah. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a good problem to have. Too many things, not enough time, right? And I think that we're really taking our time trying to decide or discern what is best. What do people need? Like putting our hand on like the pulse of the collective right now, and who's going to be coming, and what do we think that they need? Because like you're saying, both of you, we could do a 2-week long retreat, but what can we do in an immersive 3-day retreat? So I think we have so many things to offer, the 3 of us, that are so complementary. Mm-hmm. But we clearly each have a specialty, a little niche. And I love that. And I think that we're trying to focus on those things so that we can each bring something valuable to the table. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited about we're talking about awakening and being in line, but also what does spiritual self-defense look like? And, when we go about our daily lives, if we're living in the Midwest right now in the winter, we're not going to go out in our bathing suit, right? We have layers of protection of clothing on us. It's the same kind of concept. And so while we're looking at spiritual self-defense, how do we awaken with wisdom and discernment? And so that's one of the areas of focus that I really want to help people with, because it makes our lives so much smoother and so much easier. That blind trust, that not knowing, or just, I'm going to call it like almost like a lack of understanding because we haven't had the experiences before. This can really push us forward with utilizing wisdom and discernment, and it helps us to grow on our spiritual paths.
Yeah. And I'm going to add in just an example for everyone why the discernment is important, especially when we are first coming out in this awakening journey. So I had a client that booked, and they had already gone down to a foreign country. They were, I do believe it was Bali. They were down there, and they were so excited. It was the first time they had ever traveled, and they were already in a facility. They were doing deep meditations, and they booked a session with me while they were there because they were getting ready to go out into the woods, and they were going to do, essentially, it wasn't technically ayahuasca. They were going to do a form of that on their own, completely guided by no one. And I was able, so sometimes what I'll do in sessions, I'll remote view, I will put myself in that location. And I saw this very old energy that is still walking that forest, that is still inhabiting that land. It felt very shapeshifter, but it had a feminine energy to it. And I knew it was a trickster being, that this person, when they had sat down, it would perceive this being as a beautiful feminine guide that was coming in. And so in Laura, I mean, one of the things that you teach are just these gentle ways. Pour some salt over everything before you come in, because if it's for your highest good and purpose, it won't mind if you say, hey, can we just douse a little bit of salt before we proceed? They won't care. They'll say whatever puts you at ease. And so, because I learned that from Laura, because I absolutely love and follow your work, I was able to share that with my client. And I don't want to put fear out into anything, but always say, just pour some salt on whatever might come through that's showing up to want to work with you. And that's part of what you're talking about, this spiritual defense, these little easy things to do.
Yeah, and it's no different than our normal physical lives. We don't let our 5-year-old go walk across the street to a park by themselves because of those unseen dangers. I mean, it's the same concept. It's just a different dimension. And it wasn't that long ago when people would kind of feel like they would be offending our spirit guides or whatever if we question them. The truth is they love it when we question them. They love it when we vet them and test them. That's a big deal. And I've got a lot of different tools and hands-on things that we can all use to learn how to do that with, because, salt is great, but maybe sometimes we need something a little stronger. Things vary. Not everything is the same in status quo. If it were, we'd all be robots. I like to say that.
Yes, absolutely. I'll go back to, so one of the things that I'm really excited to hold space for is, I spoke earlier on bringing back this voice. And first off, why is it so important to have our voice back again? And when you even just look at history in general, and you see all the people who have been silenced for centuries, I do the podcast in October, the Burnt Witches, those people were silenced. And we still carry those through. Those precede dimensions, they precede timelines, those deep wounds, those deep hurts. And often, until we actually go up into that voice and we work on it, just gentle hummings or holding a tone along with breath work, we're finding our own voice. And when we get strong in that, we're so grounded in our knowing and our truth, and we speak it out proudly and so firmly through our heart, then we don't allow others to be the voice for us. And that's another aspect of going within. I just had a session this morning, and we were going, it was a quantum hypnosis, and we were going and looking at multiple lifetimes where we were clearing out the throat chakra. And through somatic therapy, I've learned this, and this is another aspect that we will also cover, work getting the anxieties out. But the vagal nerve, the humming, just the simple act of humming can calm down the body and calm down the nervous system. But now in this particular session, after we had cleared out that throat from multiple different timelines, the higher source said, let's spend 30 seconds of just humming. And while we were humming, we were coating, and I could see the esophagus, right? It's literally just the muscle. We're coating that with light. And why the humming, that vibration is spreading that light. And it's making that throat so strong because we're healing the muscle. We're healing all the sides of it. And just humming into that and holding that. So that's a very simple practice that we can all do in our own home for free moving forward when we're wanting just to have those clearings and decrease the anxiety in our body.
And you brought up two good points I kind of want to mention is you're removing the old muscle memory that no longer serves of that soul, but also you're showing a clockwise spiral going up, which means that voice is connecting to God, the divine, etc. at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a great story, by the way. And it's not a story. I know it's true.
Yes. This is what I love about this. And I think sometimes people might get overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, 3 immersive days. 3 whole days of work, right? It's very simple. These simple little things that can have profound change and shifts in the body and the mind.
And, it's 3 days of building community. I'm sorry, Sherri.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say something similar to what we were thinking the same thing. It's not like 3 days of lecture. These are 3 days of just hanging out together, learning techniques, processing and integrating, hanging out and meditating and release and supporting each other and holding space for each other and becoming friends with such an intimate group that I've done so many things like this. It does not feel like work. It really is so healing that you are almost emotional about it in just such a beautiful way, because you'll feel like I'm with family. And that's why I love doing these sorts of things. And like Laura was just saying, you're building a community, and that's what people want. And that's why we're doing a in-person retreat. We could easily just say, let's do a 3-day Zoom and anybody can come. We can have thousands of people. Well, that's not intimate, and that's really not the vibe that we're trying to create. This is an intimate, in-person immersive experience that is going to be really healing. And so that's what I'm excited most about.
Yeah, when the one-on-one time is so important, because I may be able to offer something that somebody needs, but Abby, somebody might need something different from you, and somebody might need something different from Sherri. And so we get to work together this way.
Yeah.
Everybody is so unique in their needs and where they're at, and spirituality is never a contest. So don't think that, I'm not spiritual enough or anything like that, because that's not what it's about. This is about where we get to meet each other where we're at, and we get to grow from where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And when we're on one space together physically, right? I mean, we're all over Zoom. I've been physically near Laura and near Sherri. It's a completely different experience when you're there sharing in the space. And, sometimes my kids will look back at my podcast or, like, Mom, like because I'm a Virgo ascending, so I can come off pretty professional, and straightforward, but that's not me in real life. So when we're all human, and we're just all trying to help one another. We truly are. It's just Sherri's the version of me, and Laura's a version of me, and I'm the Abby version of Sherri, and I'm the Abby version of Laura. And it truly is there. And that's where all of us connect, and you find such joy in that. And, laughter. I don't know what I just heard, laughter in the small space, in the small places. we're there too.
And bringing in joy is so critical because right now everything is still rather heavy. And so when we can find those moments of joy and find those moments that bring us happiness, it really shifts the whole soul frequency.
Yeah.
And imagine a whole room full of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a small group. We're not having a large group because we want it to be intimate. We want it to be personalized for individual needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, when we were already starting to outline the day, we're the first 30 minutes of every morning, it's just coming in and just slowing the body and the mind down. I just get really nice and relaxed. And maybe that looks like just some soft toning or some sound bowls. Maybe that's some humming. Maybe that's a little bit of somatic movement, but just easing into the day. So it's not going to be, and I'm not a morning person. Sherri, I don't believe you're a morning person either. So we're not going to make you set your alarm for 7 a.m. to come and do this. I know that you go to kickboxing at like 5 a.m, Laura. So
not anymore. I've been too busy for that. I wish.
But it's going to be relaxing too. So they're full days, but it's going to be relaxing as well.
Yeah.
I love what Daryl just had to say in these comments, by the way.
There we go. Yes.
I think that humming is healing. Even if you don't know it, like when you're sick and you don't feel good, you kind of moan or hum, and that's healing. And you're so right.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
absolutely. Any kind of release. I mean, the humming, the vocalization, the breath work. I am a huge fan of breath work. That is what saved my life. So that's one of the things that I specialize in, and I still do every single day, is releasing through breath. That immediately shifts me from that sympathetic, anxious mode to the parasympathetic. And I coach a lot of my clients on different ways to do that, because there's more than one way. And so I think that is one way, because I see 2025. I truly do. I was talking about this on a live with Lily Nova last night, and I did an interview with one of my favorite people, Suzanne Spooner, this week as well. She's incredible, such a lovely person. And we were talking about 2025 and the tone of what we feel is coming. And it's just really, truly about expanding our consciousness, and what does that actually mean? And I think that's an ambiguous term. And we basically, to sum it up, it's like, that's such, it can mean so many different things. But if we truly are stepping into a new energy and a new frequency, which I believe 2025 is that, how do we do that? How do we maintain it? How do we understand it? How do we integrate through that? So I will have a lot of techniques that I use that are my favorites to help people navigate the challenges that come with that, the excitement that comes with it, the self-doubts that come in, the limiting beliefs, and all of it, and how to handle it, and how to process it, and really how to deprogram the last X amount of years of your life, because we're all different ages. So I don't know how, we're not all the same age. But I love what you said, Laura. I want to circle back to that. Hey, Phil. We are all in different points of our journey. And just because Laura and I and Abby are hosting this does not mean that we are better or higher than anybody that's coming. We just happen to be teaching something that we are good at. But the magic happens when people come together and we share. And that's where I truly believe. And so I feel like we're all going to meet each other where we are on our journey. And so whether this is the beginning of your journey and you just found us and you're just awakening, or you've been awakened, you've been healing for 10, 15 years, or anywhere in between, this is one of those things that I feel like wherever you are, this will be good for you, because I certainly have a lot to learn, and I can't wait to work with both of you, because I want to learn what you know. And so we're all learning and we're all experiencing together. So,
yeah. So we were talking a little bit before we jumped on here of, so the title of the show tonight is, Are You Ready to Remember? And actually it was coming through from a dimensional being a little bit earlier, is I actually asked, well, how do you communicate with us our memories, right? Because they're saying, oh, you're beginning to remember and we're sending you memories. Well, how do you do that? How does that even work? And they said, when you live your life, when you live your life and progress through your life and you are growing here, that forward movement and growth allows memory come in, then growth, memory comes in. It is this system, and that's how they communicate the memories. And again, these are your memories. They're your soul memories. And there is no such thing as too late or past the time, or, it's always, I'm a firm believer in, you have missed nothing. Everything comes in at the correct divine timing that is right for you. And there is no judgment or questioning, when or how that happens. And I also believe, out of our small group, one of us could be saying one thing for 10 minutes and 4 people hear something different out of it.
So true.
Because we're each within our own frequencies. We're pulling and we're pulling out what we're needing. And that again is living in that constant state of creation, that constant movement of being the creation being. Laura and I were talking, and I addressed this a little bit with Alexis from Ascension Diaries last week. And these creation beings were showing, they're like, how many times, because we talk so much about the collective energy focusing on something. And they're like, how many times when, like, I'll just do Y2K, for instance, because that's something that I was talking to them about. Like, the whole world was afraid of Y2K, and that never happened. And they're like, yeah, because those were a distraction to keep you from being in a constant state of creation, because we are all focused on that instead of every moment being creating. And especially over these next 2 years, these timelines where we're coming into the expansion of consciousness, the movement has happened. The space is there within the brain gray matter. The space is there. The heart has been expanded. And so what are we going to choose to fill that in with? We're going to go within and find what resonates with each one of us. So how do we do that? Because we're going to be seeing these shifts, and we're each individually going to be feeling our own personal nudges to shift, change jobs, change physical locations of my house, change relationships. These are all going to be occurring. So how do we navigate those? Those are really big changes. Those are really big shifts. And how do we navigate those with our own voice and with our own energy? And so that's really what we're going to be looking at for this immersive weekend, is so that all of those decisions are coming from here. They're coming in this alignment.
Absolutely.
Love that.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can go on rants.
No, I love your rants. I love
Me
rants. Rants are my favorite.
You brought up about memories, and and everybody here has a natural affinity to some type of concept, right? Maybe cooking comes naturally, or maybe mathematics comes naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Those are old memories from previous lifetimes being brought forward, so you can kind of start where you left off in this current incarnation. Yeah. So think about what you're naturally gifted at and what comes natural to you. That 3-year-old who can play the piano just like Mozart, well, that wasn't his first time around playing the piano. Yeah. And so find what you're naturally inclined to do. And those are your memories coming forward into this lifetime that you get to grow and expand. That's the beauty of reincarnation.
Yeah.
We often think reincarnation is like, oh, God, darn, I got to do it again. But that's the beauty of reincarnation. Yeah. We do get to do it again.
Yeah. Well, and to go back to, the humming, what makes your soul hum?
Right.
Makes it sing. It's finding that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the nefarious aspects of our reality with speech in general. And one of the things that I've received time after time, session after session, which is why vocal toning And light language is so critical. And I'm so glad that you're going to bring this in, because it's not an area that I admittedly do that often as I should. But with our words and our language, I talk about this in several presentations I've done where, we communicate as as a soul and many spiritual beings through melodies and harmonies. And when we are in the human form and we're speaking in this 3D reality, and they separate those harmonies into words and they start to segregate the sound, it distorts and disrupts the flow. And that's why there's so much disconcertion with our communication. We're there's so many times that we're like, the words just, I can't come up with the word, because there isn't actually a word to describe, because it's a feeling. And the way we express these feelings is through sound and vibration and these tones. And so now as a collective, it's very exciting to see us going back to that. So as we as we tone and we vocalize and we start to harmonize, that's very healing. And there's a reason why that's been blocked. There's a reason that when children are in school and they're learning music, it's very limited and specific to, oh, you're just going to learn and recite and sing these things that other people have created. And we're not going to create anything new. We're not going to be imaginative about it. Right. And it's very limiting, just like with everything else these children are learning. So now it's about what comes out. You know how many times I have a session and someone will say, they'll say these they'll sing these tones and they're asking me, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. That's your soul speaking through you. That is an activation that is for you. And as you speak that, it's healing you. That's not for me, that's for you. And you don't actually, we don't need words to interpret the meaning. That's not the point of it either. So I think there's so much changing in the way that we are going to be living our life in so many different ways. And communication is one of those big ones. So I think by us focusing on activation and toning and using our voice and at this retreat is really important to help us integrate moving forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was just thinking, I have not watched them, but it's really coming out, the telepathy tapes.
Yeah.
With autistic children. Now, again, I have not watched them, but just knowing that telepathy is being seeded into a much larger conscious right now, because telepathy is, that's our, and I always go here, that's our first language. It is the fastest language. It's the most efficient language. There's no misinterpretation with telepathy.
There's not. No. When I have clients, and I think every one of us listening has had an experience with separations and disagreements, especially over these past 4 to 5 years. It's amazing how many families and friendships and coworkers, et cetera, that fell apart over disagreements. Yeah. One of the best things that we can do is telepathically send them our love. Yeah. And as you go to bed at night, set the intention that I want John or whomever to know how much I love them, and I want you to be well, that kind of thing. Those telepathic messages do reach that target individual. Mm-hmm. And that's important, because as we learn how to send love in these other dimensions, in the ethers, it echoes out into the third dimensional physical reality we have. Yeah. And so telepathy is hugely important. And I encourage everybody just to telepathically send love to your loved ones, and maybe even not so loved ones, because that is what's healing. And you have to, if you're dealing with a not so loved one, you do have to come across and be true of heart for that. You don't want to send somebody an angry form of love. But telepathy is an amazing tool that we all have access to. You can even do this for your children at night and just tell your children, even though they're sleeping in the bed in the next room, just tell them telepathically how much they're loved and how much they're cherished. Mm-hmm. It makes a difference, because we connect through those Awaken cords this way. And it's an easy and free tool.
Yeah.
I'm smiling because I do that every day with my kids. I'm laying in bed and I've already given them all a hug and kiss and told them I love them a million times. But then I'm in bed and I'm falling asleep and I'm like, I love you so much, Aramis. I love you. And they're probably like, God, all right, got it. But like I'm talking to them. I'm continuing to do
Yeah.
this. So I do that.
It's a really cool way to do it. And I remember on another note, my mother-in-law at the time was really, really sick and she was afraid to die. She had a daughter who died at the hands of a Dewey. And she was angry with God. She was afraid to die. And I remember we had signed the DNR and she was in the home. It was the end of life. And I talked to her every single night, telling her it's okay to let go.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I've got your room packed with angels who will guide your soul back home to the heavens. So if anybody's dealing with a loved one at end of life stage, this is a big deal too with the telepathy.
Yeah.
You can communicate to them and just let them know that they're loved, that they're safe, that you are doing everything that you can to help them.
Yeah.
And it's okay to let go.
Yeah.
That what you just said is extremely important too with animals. A lot of times they hang on at the end of life way longer and they're suffering. And I'm like, they just want you to let them go. And they're like, I can't, I'm not ready. And then we talk more. And as soon as they say, okay, and they tell their animal, I love you. And I want what's best for you. And it's okay. I'll be okay. They want to know you're going to be okay. And they'll go right after that. So the animals do that same thing.
They really do. And when you talk to them, a lot of times the animals have a guilt about them about leaving. Mm-hmm. And it's maybe because of the human's neediness, because maybe this pet was the only form of unconditional love that person has had. Wow. And so it's really hard to let that one go. But know that our fur babies do, when we send them home to the heavens, we still get to have that love relationship with them. Love never dies. It just transcends dimension.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just yesterday morning, how sometimes it might be a couple days after a dream and then that dream memory comes back to you.
You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
My big Mastiff Cruey, I would sit on the floor, and if I ever actually sit on the floor, she was just like, on me, and she was so tall, and her little belly had these little flaps that would just like hang down. And my favorite thing to do is I would sit there and like pet them and flop her little belly, right?
See, this is a good weekend for everybody. You get this.
Yes, right. Yeah. So I would just sit there and do that. And she loved it, because I was scratching her skin and everything like that. And that's what I did. It's just like, my husband was there on his computer doing work, and I go, oh my gosh, I saw Crusoe 3 nights ago. And like 3 nights ago, Crusoe came to me and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I was playing with her belly skin. And I don't know. My eyes filled with tears. It just did. And she came in to say hi. They never leave us.
They never leave us. And when they come in our sleep state, we know they're coming in from the higher realms.
Yeah.
Versus sitting on our bed and putting an indentation on the bed. That means they haven't crossed over. Yeah. So that's a big deal when they do come to us in our sleep state, humans and animals.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and they also come right back to us too sometimes. Sometimes they choose to come right back. My little Una is Wally, and Wally came right back 4 months later.
I'm seeing a lot of that too. They're reincarnating more than ever before and faster than ever before. That's real common right now.
And it came through very loud and clear when I got Una home. And I saw just in the little puppy picture, I'm like, that's Wally. Like I could just see in her eyes. I'm like, that's Wally. And so, and I wasn't searching. So I don't think, oh my gosh, she was in grief and she was searching. I wasn't. Wally had a great life. So when she came actually in my home, and for about the first 6 to 7 months, I tried not to, but every so often I would say, Wally, and she instantly would respond and come right over. And the minute she was here, Wally had I have about 2 acres of land, and Wally had very specific Wally places, like his favorite places. And that was where she made beelines to every time she went to his lookout spot. And he had this spot where the sun would hit, and it was just right on the water, and he would just sit there and look at the water and the birds, and that's where she went to. And it was really neat because after like that 6, 7, 8 month, I could see like Wally like kind of closing and coming fully into Una now, right? Like you could see that subtle shift and it fully embraced. But in those first few months, the message was very clear. I want to be here for this phase with you. I want, so knowing where we're going and what we're going to be going through, that was very strongly, he wanted to come back and be with our family unit through this.
Aren't those animal communications just lovely though?
They're
and everybody has the ability to communicate with their fur babies or feather babies or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful story, Abby.
It cracks me up. I mean, the animal communication cracks me up, especially when it just comes in so strong. They're silly. They're very unique individual souls.
And they do reincarnate with us over and over and over. They may come in as a horse. They may come in as a dog. They may come in. It just depends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Sherri, I'm going to ask you really quick. What are some of, I know that you were listing off all the things that you want to do. What would you say is one thing that you're excited to share with everyone?
God, there's so many things. I think I want to focus a lot on processing and integrating, because we are activating and we are shifting into these newer versions of ourselves, and it can be really unfamiliar to a lot of people. And unknown can slip people back into fear. And I'm seeing that a lot with people that I'm working with. They're just like, it's like, oh, I just want to go back to bed, or I want to resort to old behaviors because the uncertainty of this or the unknown is causing me anxiety. So how do you navigate through those things?
Yeah. And
one of them, what I refer to in my newest book, Courage to Change, is getting out of negative loops. So a lot of us inadvertently or through programming or a lot of different reasons end up in these cycles, in these loops that I call negative loops. Some are karmic, some are collective, and some are individual. So a lot of the work I do with my clients on an individual basis is how to break those loop cycles, how to recognize that you're in a loop of addiction, of lack of self-worth, or whatever it might be. The point in which you felt like you entered that loop, what age, some you regress back, and you can kind of discern that. And how do you move out of that? And how do you create new pathways and new neural networks? So I really want to like that be the focal point, but then add things around it to support that. So what I add to support that is the issue that I'm having right now of narrowing it down. Like what we just talked about, animal communication is one of my babies. And I really want to integrate that into the weekend somehow. But it has to make sense. So I'm trying to figure out, like, I can't do it at all. There's so many things that we can all do, but I want it to be complementary. And so I'll probably insert what works best. And some of them might be fluid. We might just have to see if the group that we have is flexible. We kind of need to navigate to see as we get to know each other, and this happens sometimes when you work with groups where you're like, oh, you guys are much more suited for this or that. And then it kind of just naturally gravitates. And I love doing that and kind of being open to change. So some of the things we might keep a little bit open or open-ended. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, that is my favorite way to work. I'm even doing, in March, I'm going over to Egypt. I'm leading a group over in Egypt. And though, yes, we do have an itinerary, but we're still in that space of when we wake up, if that space is saying not today, we're still opening up to be able to flow with that, because again, this is part of that intuitive life, right? We're feeling into the energy and open to flow and shift with that. So I'm fine with that. I absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. It was such a lovely time to see you again and chat. Anyone listening, please, you can go to awakenalign.net to grab a slot. It is smaller. It's already it's half sold out. So I probably wouldn't wait much longer if you're going to do it. If you do need a payment plan, we're more than happy to work with you on that. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask. It's all on the website. But if you guys are feeling called and you want to get into some nice Florida weather in the middle of winter and come and join us and have a great time learning and going within, please just go ahead and sign up and come spend 3 days with us.
Yes, I'm excited about it as well. And feel free to if you have questions about specifics, to check out awakenalign.net, the page that we've created, because we have some details. So likely the question that you have might be answered in the information that you look through there. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a lovely Tuesday evening. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.